intention with full amount of energy and motivation and devotion as a sign of invitation, we can recite our third salawat in the honor of our Imam of time, Hazrat Sahib al-Asr wa zaman, Ajjalallah ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen for this bounty and blessing, one of a kind bounty and blessing, to be able to get together on such a beloved night of the month of Safar, approaching the day of Arba'in, and be able to talk about the school of the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran, specifically the movement and the steps of Sayyid al-Shahada Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, through the words of Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salatu wassalam and the rest of the Ahlul Bayt, with the hope that not only we are gathered here to hear and listen something of a history, but be able to actually turn those particular teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, which are the unique jewels for the entire humanity, from day one till the day of Qiyamah, to a practical action and practical steps for ourselves, inshallah. Why? So that we can gain the status of the companionship. That's the whole objective. The main reason that we all gather around. And I think I went a little bit too deep in the last session discussion because I see, mashallah, most of the people have decided not to show up today. So alhamdulillah, I try to go a little bit more on the surface, and that usually happens, alhamdulillah. So the whole concept of gathering around, especially as the month of Muharram and Safar continues, there's always this question that I have come for 10 days, I have commemorated for Sayyid al-Shahada for 10 nights, I have cried for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Inshallah, Allah has accepted from me and my sins has been forgiven. Hence, I should be good for one whole year till the next month of Muharram, inshallah. Yes? In which we say, inshallah, yes, why not? You know, when it comes to asking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more we ask, the better. But is it only a mere of gaining that forgiveness? Is it only a mere of that, crying for the sake of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein that counts and becomes the objective of us attending the majalis? If that's the objectives, how many tears were we blessed to actually shed for the sake of Sayyid al-Shahada alayhi salatu wassalam in the past Muharram? You don't have to tell me, obviously, it becomes real. But in our heart, we can sometimes do the analysis, we can do a comparison. Oh, when I look back, the first day I cried this much, second day I cried this much, third day they passed some onions, so I cried so much, the fourth day I did, right? Fifth, sixth, seventh, inshallah, if Allah bless me on the 10th day Ashura, because it's the day, I cried so much, so inshallah, Allah has forgiven my sins. Question. If anybody, right? If anybody cries for the sake of Sayyid al-Shahada, would they be given forgiveness? Yes? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So we can say someone with the name of Omar Asad is going to go in heaven. Yes? No? Why not? He cried. He didn't cry for the sake of anything. He cried for Imam al-Hussein. He cried for Imam al-Hussein. When? On the day of Ashura. When? When he was looking at Imam al-Hussein till the very last moment of his beloved life. And he cried not only one tear, not two tears. He cried so much that the report says when he turned his face away from the maqtal, from the godal or qatligah, his beard was covered in tears. His beard was completely wet. Imagine how much you have to cry. We cry one tear, two tear maximum. So if it's about the tear, he should be way up in the highest levels of Jannah. Good argument? Yes or no? No? So what's the reason? Yeah? Oh, mashallah. So it goes to the deeds as well. So what's the whole philosophy here? That we come to the majlis of Imam al-Hussein and we talk about the barakat and the fazail of crying for the sake of Sayyid al-Shahada. You see, when we have this hadith that says, Ana qatilul abara. I am the one who has been killed for the sake of the tears. Meaning by tears, we are sort of reviving the memory of Imam al-Hussein. Every tear that rolls down from our eyes, it revives the momentum, it revives the qualities, it revives the message, it revives the spirit of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein within ourselves and within our surroundings, within our community. And that was the whole topic of discussion last night, which we said the movement of Imam al-Hussein is not something to only be looked in the form of a historical discussion. No, we have to see the connection from that movement all the way to the time of, inshallah, appearance of our Imam of time. In what form? Looking at it at one reality, one consistent reality that is constantly changing. So it's not, again, it's not like static, right? It's constantly changing, meaning it's constantly moving. It's constantly revolving. It's constantly elevating. And we can see that one in terms of the numbers. The numbers of the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, those who express their love for the sake of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salatu wasalam, is constantly on the rise. Correct? Every Muharram, every Arba'in, we see a higher turnout when it comes to the numbers. So that by itself indicates what we're trying to actually achieve within this discussion. So then what's the next point? It's like to see how the movement of Imam al-Hussein is connected, inshallah, to appearance of our Imam of time. As if that's the beginning stage, beginning step number one to rise against the current or whatever regime of the time of Imam al-Hussein. For what purpose? The reformation, like Islah. What is this Islah? And when is this Islah is actually going to take place? When is this Islah is going to take, it's going to become an actuality? Inshallah, at the time of Imam of time. Before that, what's our responsibility? Can we just postpone everything for the time of Imam of time? Or no, as I mentioned, it's a whole one unit movement that is constantly moving. So if I want to be a smart mu'min, I have to make sure I go according to this movement and not postpone everything for when the end result is given. My life may not be long enough. I may not have the bounty to actually experience the zuhur of Imam of time. So I cannot just postpone everything and say, okay, Imam Hussein did the reform at his time. Inshallah, I'm waiting for the time of the arrival of Imam of time. Hence, I'm good to go. I'm between the two different stages. So I don't have to worry about anything. It's a complete vice versa. And what was the whole objective of this reformation? What was the reformation done? For the sake of the justice, right? As Imam al-Hussein mentions, he wants to revive the values, as the values have become upside down. But for what reason? For what reason? To serve justice. Okay, to serve justice for what reason? What's the next objective after the true justice is being served? We want the true justice for what purpose? Is there a purpose higher than justice? Or is the justice the ultimate goal? As if when we reach that true sense of justice, we will stop worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or no, do we have to continue? Right? So what is the true objective? The true objective is to become a monotheistic person, monotheistic family, monotheistic society, monotheistic country, monotheistic world. The world that worships one God. The world that worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without considering any partner for it. Where is the clue for this? As Allah says, وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَيَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ وَلَيُمَكِّنَنَّ لَهُمْ دِينَهُمُ الَّذِي ارْتَضَىٰ لَهُمْ وَلَيُبَدِّلَنَّهُم مِّن بَعْدِ خَوْفِهِمْ أَمْنًا يَعْبُدُونَنِي لَا يُشْرِكُونَ بِي شَيْئًا. That's the part. يَعْبُدُونَنِي لَا يُشْرِكُونَ بِي شَيْئًا. All of this has been given for one reason. What is that? Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without considering a partner for him. So the ultimate goal, the ultimate result is what? Tawheed. Is to worship one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then we can say, okay, we're off the hook because we're already doing it. We say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. We're doing our prayers. We're doing all of these good deeds, inshallah. We do the fasting. So I should be in a good state, a good stage. But not in reality. Why? Remember the last argument of last night? We talked about the people of the Kufa who actually expressed their love for the sake of Imam al-Hussein. They expressed their love. They loved Imam al-Hussein. They liked Imam al-Hussein. They invited Imam al-Hussein as their guest. You don't invite someone that you do not like. And Farazdak actually confirmed this one, that when you look at the hearts of the people, they love Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. But their actions, in which as a resemblance to swords, goes against the very same Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So would that be any different story for me and you after 1200 or after 1400 years living in this time and era in this part of the world? We have to go one by one and we have to try to make that comparison of what took and what made all of those, what so-called Muslimin and Muslimat of that time, the heavy champs of that time, the pioneers to some extent of that time, those who refer to themselves as sometimes a mujtahideen, those who refers to themselves as Ahlul Hadith, those who refers to themselves as this, extensive resume of Islamic, practices, to form a line and compete one another against the only remaining of Nabi Rasulullah, the only remaining of the five, the only remaining of the master youth of paradise. It's easy to breeze by it and say, oh, it's easy because they had the hope of dunya. They had the love of the dunya. Yes, they had the love of the dunya. What are the signs of the love of the dunya? Can I make that comparison with myself today? If the very same sign exists with me, what does it tell me? That if the zuhur were to happen right now at this very same moment, more likely I would not be able to show my support for my Imam of time. Why? Because that love of the dunya has been rooted, it's been embedded within me. I haven't worked on it. So when I haven't worked on it, when I'm asked for a support, more likely I would not be able to give up what I like the most. Right? Simple comparison. So what are the signs of the, having this hope, having this love for the dunya? The very first sign is when we prioritize stuff, we tend to prioritize for the mundane world instead of prioritizing for the akhirah. In what format? Very simple examples. Imagine, it comes the time of the Maghrib prayer. At the same time, I'm finishing up a paper, right? The azan has been reciting on the let's say on the TV or whatever radio. I know it's azan time, but I'm like, let me just finish one more paragraph and this homework will be done. Inshallah, we'll go for my prayer. Another simple one. Comes the time for prayer and there is a playoffs on the TV. What do? Do I pause it and go and pray and then come back? Or no, I have to make sure I watch the whole game and make sure I watch even the all the advertising and in the middle and make sure I watch the whole analysis afterwards and before. Then at the end, if my team actually wins in the playoff, then I probably go and do 2 rakat or 3 rakat of the prayer. So prioritizing between what is for the mundane world and the akhirah. If by default, I tend to pick the stuff for this mundane world over the akhirah, that means I have that love of the dunya, right? حُبُّ الدُّنْيَا رَأْسَ كُلَّ خَطِيئَةٍ. The love of the dunya, it becomes the head of every single mistake that we make, and that's how dangerous it becomes. Now, sometimes the example of playoffs, sometimes the example of a video game, sometimes the example of a school homework, sometimes even an example of, it's too hard for me to go, for example, change my clothes, maybe for the topic of tahara, and put on something new, like a clean clothes, and do and offer my salat. So this is one of the examples, right? So we have to do the comparison. What are the things that we have, for the signs of the love of the dunya? Inshallah, recite a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second sign is tulul amal. When we constantly have this long wishes in the form of a long planning and a long form of investment that never ends. Never ends. Where am I supposed to draw the line when it comes to constantly wanting more? One thing, it's not wrong to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for as much as possible, right? So let's get that clear. Sometimes we talk about stuff like, we shouldn't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for anything. No. We're supposed to ask Allah for everything at the maximum amount, the perfection level. But there is a level to it. There is a limit to it. And that limit varies from one person to another, right? So what's the sign of loving the dunya? When I constantly imagine myself achieving more and more and more and more to the extent that goes way beyond my limitation, beyond my capabilities. I'm building so many castles, so many palaces, so many different towns and cities in my mind with the investment that I'm doing today, for example. To the point that I forget about the most important things in my life. So it becomes this long last wishes. Sign of having this love of the dunya in my heart. It's showing itself, it's revealing itself, right? The very same love of the dunya, when Imam of time, inshallah, appears, will prevent me from showing my support. Why? I'm so busy in my own mind. I'm so busy in my own world. I'm so busy in achieving what I think is the rightful thing for me. And a lot of times we don't even achieve those. You know how many hours we spend just thinking and overthinking and overthinking and overthinking, trying to build something out of nothing? That's the sign of the love of the dunya, right? So we have to always have that limitation when it comes to it. When we're going to draw the line, when we're going to stop thinking and overthinking and planning over something that we know it is not going to last for a long time. As Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salatu wasalam, he mentions this very beautiful hadith, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And he makes an example of the whole world, the mundane world being a business market, a bazaar. Right? Imam says the dunya is a bazaar. You go in the bazaar, some people are selling, they gain some profit, some they make some money. Some people are like purchasing items, they still purchase something that they gain something. Sometimes like people may actually lose. When there's a business transaction, sometimes we gain, sometimes we lose. So they ask Imam, which one are you when you go to the bazaar of the dunya? What does Imam respond? He said, I go in the bazaar of the dunya, but I don't go for the gain and the loss. I go for the one thing that will remain forever. Not gain and the loss, but something that remain forever. Think about that. What will be the example of those things that will remain forever? The ayah of the Quran, وَمَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدْ وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. What is going to remain, and how much of those that is going to remain am I actually working towards? Am I spending my efforts towards? There's a very again very interesting story between an alim and one of the most successful people of his time, who happened to be very stingy, very successful but very stingy. These usually go hand in hand. So he's Uncle Scrooge. He goes to the alim of his time, and he's like, give me an advice. I have so much money, and I cannot even use it for myself, right? Give me one advice that maybe I become a little bit more generous. He's trying to test the knowledge of the alim. So the alim looks at him and mashallah, he's a very successful man. He can basically ask for anything that he wishes for, that life that everybody wants. He tells him it's simple. What do you think of akhirah? Giving him the memory or the remembrance of death. It's like, oh, akhirah, I don't know, and that's actually I want help with, because this dunya, this world, I have accomplished everything, I've figured everything out, but for akhirah, I need your help. So you gotta give me some tips, some insight. It's no problem. On the day of akhirah, just like as we meet today, inshallah, we'll meet on the day of akhirah. Then I can show you the way, I can show you some insight, I can take you in the back door, no problem. Me and akhirah, we're it's oh, that's nice, that's nice. So where are we gonna meet? No problem. I mean, obviously we don't have cell phones over there. We cannot use GPS. So we need something, a sign or something, so we can find one another, because akhirah is so crowded, all of these people. How are we going to find one another? It's okay, what are we going to do? The alim looks around. He has this needle on the ground. It's okay, take this one, right? And make sure when you go to the day of akhirah, you wave it in the sky so I can spot you among all of the people, and I'll come to you, I'll rescue you, no problem. The guy becomes very excited, right? He hasn't chipped in a dime, and he got a needle as a sign that he's going to wave, and inshallah that's going to get him all the way to the heaven. He gets up all excited, about to leave the door. All of a sudden it clicks. Oh, wait a second. How am I going to take the needle with me to the akhirah? Oh, one needle, one pen. So he turns around, it's you gave me the needle, you gave me where to meet, but you didn't tell me how to take the needle to the akhirah. The alim is waiting for this response. Oh, it finally clicked. If you cannot take one needle with you, what are you going to do with all the stuff that you have gathered around? Right? How much responsibility? How much accountability? When are you going to start having that analysis before the time is late? You cannot take one needle with you. Right? So this love of the dunya, as Imam al-Sajjad says, I don't go for the gain and loss, the typical mentality that we all have. I go for what remains forever. What remains forever in the world? Everything has changed. So many people have come and gone. So many powers have come and gone. So many empires have come and gone. One name remains. What is that one name? We are not denying that we are sitting under his beautiful banner. The name of Imam al-Hussein, right? Always remains. See, there are examples of this. When Imam al-Sajjad says, I go for something that remains forever, right? Means the stuff that actually goes along the same line of what is the purpose of creation. What is the purpose of the creation? That inshallah will be ready by the time of zuhur of our Imam of time, inshallah. What is the purpose of the creation in which Imam al-Hussein actually make the rise, make the sacrifice with all of his noble companions and family members, so that me and you, we can sit down and we can learn from that movement. What is that? Tawheed. To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every steps that get us closer to this tawheed, every steps that get us closer to practicing the tawheed, every step that get us closer to those who practice monotheistic way, those are the stuff that will remain forever. The perfect example, the movement of Imam al-Hussein. Right? The perfect example, how much we actually spend for the school of the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran. Right? Because it's not only focusing on the Tawheed, but those who actually promote or become the example, the true example of Tawheed in our life. How much closeness we have gained towards them, towards the Ahlul Bayt, towards the Quran, towards the representative of the Ahlul Bayt, towards those pious servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? It goes hand in hand, relatively speaking. Those will remain forever. What is the third one? The third one is to these attachments, or the willingness, if you want to say, to all of the stuff that I own. It's a little bit more thorough than the one before. The one before, it's a sense of having these long wishes for wanting to gain more and more. The third sign that my heart has the love of the dunya is when I cannot remove the attachment. It's not like that I want more, but for the very little that I have, I'm super protective. Layman term, I'm super stingy on the very little things that I have. Sometimes we see very rich people, right? And they donate so much amount of money. But when we do a ratio of how much they do a donation to how much they own, literally it's like a dime. So in our eyes, it becomes so much. But when we look at it in ratio to how much they own, it in reality is actually a dime or nickel for them. So is that an example of generosity? Or no example of generosity is the one who actually doesn't have anything, even for himself or herself or for the family, at the time of pressure, and it still gives away. Still gives away. And we see so many examples of this one, right? Around the world, and especially in the companions of Imam al-Hussein, even in the examples of these little girls and little boys, the women and children of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein who were kept as captives after the tragedy of Ashura. So many examples in which they needed something so bad, but at the same time, for the sake of another person, they give up that right. One of the perfect example, Hazrat Abbas, when he goes to the Euphrates River. A commander of war, after 3 days of being kept away from the water, being thirsty, have lost a lot of energy. With one, gulp of the water, he will regain so much power. He can do so much more damage. He can cause so much damage. It doesn't go according to the normal logic that we have. That why Hazrat Abbas did not drink from the water at that moment. And why was he actually looking at the water, not drinking it? The 1 second, 2 seconds that Hazrat Abbas is looking at the water, he could have easily drank the water and then go back. No problem. There was nothing wrong with the shari'i aspect. It was not haram. It was not makruh. We can actually argue that it was actually wajib. Right? When you've been thirsty for so long, you're supposed to satisfy the need, especially when you're becoming weaker. Right? So we can actually argue that it was actually wajib upon him to drink the water. So why didn't he drink from the water? فَذَكَرَ عَطَشَ الْحُسَيْنِ. They translated as he reminded himself of the thirst of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Another meaning of zakar is like when you say something, as if you talk to someone. You bring it up to the attention. فَذَكَرَ عَطَشَ الْحُسَيْنِ, meaning Hazrat Abbas is talking to the water. It's how dare you to flow like this here when the grandson of Nabi Rasulullah, a couple of yards away, is thirsty. When the women and children of Abu Abdullah Hussein are thirsty. Meaning, shame on you, O water. Look at the ma'rafah, right? Giving up something as little as a cup of water. So that's the sign of a love of the dunya. If I cannot let go of the stuff that I possess for the sake of a good cause, that becomes a third sign that my heart has an illness. What is that illness? We call it the love of the dunya. The love of the dunya becomes the root of every single sin and mistakes that we commit within our life. I have to work on it. I have to change it, inshallah. Right? Inshallah. Recite a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The fourth one is that we become completely negligent towards our destination. What is our destination in this life? Death, mashallah. He has participated in my classes before, so alhamdulillah. Mashallah. Yes. Paradise. Alhamdulillah, our destination is paradise, is death, is heaven. No 6 figures, no a couple of bitcoins. How many bitcoins? I don't know the current rates, right? What is our destination in this world? If when I ask this question and in my mind, right, what's happening? I have all of these other plans, all of these other, again, steps, all of these other different ifs and then and ifs and then and ifs and then. That's actually the fourth sign of having the love of the dunya. Why? I have completely forgot that I've been created and I've been sent down to this world not for a permanent situation, rather a temporary time. Example, when we go on vacation, when you rent, like, let's say a hotel or somewhere, right? When you go inside of the room, do we think of how I'm going to decorate the room more? How I'm going to put more stuff in the room of the hotel? Or is it vice versa? I try to take the most advantage of the hotel in any way possible. Huh? Why? Because I know I'm going to be there for 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, whatever at the time of the vacation. I know I'm not going to stay there for long. How do I treat the room? How do I treat my own room back home? Is it any difference? So obviously I'm going to live it a little bit longer, but to what extent? To what extent is what indicates the love of the dunya versus living in the dunya at the limit that we are supposed to live, right? So the fourth one is having this sense of attachments to what? To something that is not going to remain forever, and then looking at it as an everlasting reality. Looking at dunya that is just going to remain forever and ever and ever. And that's why I keep on building and building and building and wanting more and more and more, and I do not want to give anything, because the more I give, I think I'm actually losing. What does that imply? I have gone about the whole concept of the mundane world in the wrong way. And that is why Amir al-Mu'minin says, "An-nasu niyamun fa-idha matu intabahu." People are as if they're sleeping, but when they die, then they wake up. Right? When he says an-nas, me and you are no different. So we have to do something to make ourselves as an exception from this statement of Amir al-Mu'minin. If I'm just going about my whole daily routines in the very same way as everybody else, that means I'm falling within the same category. When I'm going to wake up? When time is too late. But the moment, no, they wake up earlier than that time, right? Why? Again, remember, constant reminding to ourselves that why have we been created? What has been the purpose of our creation? For the same purpose of the creation is why we see Imam al-Hussein rise. For the same purpose of the creation, we see this long duration of waiting for inshallah, the arrival of our Imam of time. If I don't know the objective, then I cannot align myself with the movement of my Imam of time. I pray for his appearance. I give sadaqah probably on his behalf. I pray for his health. I do dua like nudba. I do dua faraj. But at the same time, if he comes, if he arrives, and if he appears, there's a possibility that actually I'll be on the wrong side. Furthermore, I'll be on the side that I would not even acknowledge the Imam of time. Why? Because this love and affection of the dunya has been constantly growing and growing and growing in my heart, and I haven't done anything for it. So these are the fourth, and there's more. There's the fifth one, which talks about having, this sense of a joy when we gain something of this world. This is a very simple comparison, and I try to leave it at these 5 signs. What does it mean? Usually when we become very happy when we are giving a good news. Well, what is the good news? A good job? Oh, mashallah, right? Sometimes when they give us they say, oh, you're the winner of today's lottery. Why? You won a free, phone. A brand new iPhone, what is it, 14, 15, 16? Yeah? How much happy do we become? Now, let's say if they say, oh, we have a new lecture today for 10 days, we're going to repeat the 10 days of the Muharram for another 10 days. How much happy do we become? And by the way, no tabarruk. Huh? You make it more difficult. So having this joy when it comes to the gains of a mundane world and having this like lack of enthusiasm when it comes to the gain of a spirituality. And that's very simple. We can like do comparison. How difficult it is for a lot of us to wake up in the morning for Fajr prayer, especially when the timing doesn't match our schedule of working or school. A lot of times we wake up like right before it becomes qaza, because we want to take advantage of the sleeping time, right? So the hour and a half that you usually have, we try to like schedule our time. So we wake up towards the end, right before it becomes qaza. So as I wake up, I don't want to go back to sleep. I wake up, I do my Fajr prayer, then I go about my daily routines of going to work and all this stuff. This sense of a burden on our shoulder, that, I have to wake up for the Fajr prayer. That's a sign of what? Having the love for the mundane world, not the love for the spiritual world, not the love for the akhirah, not the love for the deed in which Amir al-Mu'mineen, he talks to the sun, like in one of his ahadith, like he's making a statement to the sun, when at Bain al-Tuluain, like when the sun is rising. He says, you bear witness that my eyes was never kept shut during all of the days of my life as you were coming up. Referring that I'm like Amir al-Mu'mineen never missed even being awake at the time of Bain al-Tuluain, from the time of when the azan, the morning azan is mentioned, all the way to the time that sun rises. See how Amir al-Mu'mineen goes after the joy of the akhirah, and how me and you, we may feel the burden of even waking up for the morning prayer, right? So inshallah, we'll ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this remaining nights of the month of Safar, and inshallah, as we approach the day of Arba'een, to grant all of us the bounty and inshallah the tawfiq to be able to practice from these beautiful teachings of the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran, and inshallah be able to make changes that will remain with us for the remaining of our lives, hopefully shaping our way, a way that will make us part of the companions of our Imam of time, inshallah. It is the day of Friday. The day belongs to our Imam of time, Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Inshallah, we can express our condolences to his heart and ease the pain of losing not one loved one, but so many loved ones at once along the companions for so many years, waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for a day in which Allah will grant him the permission to rise and finally serve the true justice by commemorating and inshallah mourning for the sake of his grandfather, Sayyid al-Shahada alayhi salatu wassalam. We talked about one of the signs of the love of the dunya, to be able to give away and remove the attachments of the dunya when we are actually in the most need towards it. As I mentioned, there are so many examples of that one within the women and children of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. One of them is reported, and it literally breaks the heart. And this is the one that is reported by the enemy of the Ahlul Bayt, by one of those soldiers that after the tragedy of Ashura, he had taken partake in the looting process. So he's reporting this. He says, after we were done with Imam al-Hussein, the very objective came towards the Khaymegah of Abu Abdullah. So imagine that, all of these soldiers, grown men, hungry for the mundane world, all they think, the main language they speak is how much of these trophies of war am I going to be able to put my hands on, because whatever I take will be my own personal belongings. And the Khaymegah of Abu Abdullah consisting of women and children. What is going to stop them? What is going to stop them to behave at least in a form of a human being? Very same soldier says, I was witnessing how these little women and little girls and boys, they were running around from one tent to another tent to another tent, trying to avoid being in front of one of these soldiers who was rushing towards them on the horse, aiming for whatever they could get. Whether it was an earring, whether it was a necklace, whether it was something in their hands. One of them said, I felt a little bit bad about what we were doing. So for 1 second, I stopped The minute I stopped, I saw this little girl who was like sort of hiding on the side of the tent. The minute I looked at her, she became so frightened. She was about to start running again when I noticed that the side of her chador has caught on fire. So I shouted. I was like, oh, wait, wait. And this little girl, she wanted to run away because she was afraid. And I told her, like, don't run away. I'm not going to hurt you anymore. I'm not going to hurt you anymore. She stops for a second. I get closer to her. I put out the fire from the chador. And I'm like looking down because I'm ashamed of what's happening, and she's already shivering. I ask her, you don't have to be afraid. I helped you. I put the fire out. Is there anything else I can do for you? She turned around and she said, do you have any water on you? I haven't been drinking water for so many days. It's been a limited quantity. I just want to have like maybe one drop of water. I had some water on me, so I poured a glass of water for her. I gave it to her. She took the water, but she didn't drink it. She started looking at the water. And I'm waiting. Why isn't she drinking the water? It's like, is that not enough for you? Should I pour more? She says, no, this is plenty enough, and it's so beautiful, and I want to drink it, but I have a younger sibling. He's been thirsty for almost 3 days as well. I want to take it to him. So I told her, I can give you 2 cups of water. She said, no, this isn't more than enough. As she's about to walk, she turns around, she looks at me, and she asked me one question. It burns my heart till today. She asked me, were you present when they were killing my father, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, in the plains of Karbala? Were you there on the side of Qatlaga? Were you there when that was happening? I asked her why. Was they given any water to quench his thirst after all of these 3 days of being kept away from water and the whole day of Ashura? Did you give him any piece of water? I did not know what to say. Some say this is the 3-year-old of Abu Abdullah, Sayyid Ruqayya. Those who have gone to Syria, they know, despite of her young age, mashallah, so many miraculous ways of providing the truthfulness of the movement of Imam al-Hussein comes from this little daughter of Abu Abdullah. Now the relation between the daughter and the father, the relationship between a 3-year-old and the father. Those who have become father, they know once you go back home from a long day, the very first ones who come after you when you enter the home are your little kids, especially if you have a girl. They run up to you immediately and they want the attention, they want to hug you, they want to embrace you, they want to talk to you about what has happened through the day, and they will give you a report of everything that has happened to them. Now imagine the very same 3-year-old of Abu Abdullah. For how many days she has to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait for her father. Not wait inside of a house, but wait in what format? In a way of her hands being tied to all of these other kids, one side of the rope around the neck of Imam al-Sajjad, the other end of the rope around the hands of Sayyida Zainab, constantly being pushed and pulled to the side because they have to keep up with all of the adults who are walking. If they stop or if they fall down, the very first thing they get is either a slap on the face or they would get hit on the side by the side of a spear. The least they would get would be a kick or perhaps a harassment and a disrespectful word. For how many days and how many nights? From the eve of Ashura all the way to the 5th of Safar, when finally in the middle of the wreckage of Sham, the kharabat of Sham, at the middle of the night, the sound of a cry of a 3-year-old of Abu Abdullah goes to the sky saying, "Oh Father, where are you, O Abu Abdullah?" By one word of "Oh Father, where are you, O Abu Abdullah?" all of the women break out to tears and mourn for Imam al-Hussein. Why? For so many manzils, they were not given even a permission position to cry for Imam al-Hussein. Any sign of a tear rolling down from their cheeks will be again a physical punishment on the face or a push to the side. But how can you tolerate the pain of losing someone such as Imam al-Hussein for so many days and not be able to mourn and cry for him properly? Finally, she breaks that silence. She starts to cry for Abu Abdullah. Oh, auntie, you've been telling my father is going to come back to me. When is he going to come back to me? Oh, auntie, I had a dream. I saw my father. He was calling me upon himself. Where is my father? Where is my father? Where is my father? The sound goes to Darul Imara. That Mal'oon wakes up. What is going on? They said it's the little one of Abu Abdullah. What does she want? She's asking for her father. He says, that's easy. Take it to her. Let her have it. I'm done with it. Take her to her. They bring a tray with a cloth over it, with a cover over it. For a 3-year-old, how tall would be a 3-year-old? How tiny would be the hands of a 3-year-old? To hold on a tray at that size with the cover in the middle of the wreckage of Sham, in the middle of the night. What is going through her mind? The very first thing she does, she pulls back. I didn't ask for anything from you guys. Why are you guys bringing me a tray with the cover? The soldier pushes the tray towards Sayyida Ruqayya. She holds on to the tray, gently removes the cover from the tray. But what does she see? What's the image she sees? What she sees in front of her that she pulls back immediately in the form of a big question mark, that whose head it is that I am looking at in the middle of the night at the wreckage of Sham. And she's thinking and thinking. Imagine what has happened to the head of Abu Abdullah, to the face of Imam al-Hussein, that her only beloved 3-year-old daughter cannot recognize the face of her own father. But then she reaches forward with both of her tiny hands, picks up the head of Imam al-Hussein, and starts to vent with Abu Abdullah. Oh, I finally got to talk to my father one last time. Oh, Baba Jan, tell me, how's your day been? What has happened to you? What has happened to your face? What has happened to your lips? What has happened to your teeth? Oh, Father, what has happened to your neck? What has happened to your veins of the neck? Oh, Father, who is going to take care of all of these women and children after you? Then there comes a pitch silence. They look. Sayyida Ruqayya on one side, head of Abu Abdullah on the other. There comes a shout, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم الإلهي بحق محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين وتسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. يا الله 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 يا الله. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج والعافية والنصر، واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره وشيعته. اللهم ارحم أمواتنا واشف أمراضنا واجعل عاقبة الأمور خيرا. Oh Allah, will ask you on the right of Abu Abdullah, on the right of the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran. Oh Allah, hasten the appearance of our Imam of time and grant all of us the bounty to be part of his companionship. Oh Allah, will ask you for forgiveness upon all of us, upon all of our marhumin and marhumat, and we'll ask you for shifa, complete shifa upon all of our sick ones and those who have coming down with difficulties in their life. Oh Allah, will ask you to answer the hawaij of mu'mineen and mu'minat of the community and around the world, especially those who have been oppressed, innocent women and children who've been starved every day and every night. Oh Allah, oh Allah, oh Allah, will ask you to grant, to accept all of this majalis on behalf of your mercy and grace, and inshallah extend the sawab and rewards to the souls of maraja, ulama, shuhada, marhumin and marhumat. Oh Allah, oh Allah, oh Allah, grant all of us the ziyarat of the Ahlul Bayt in our life, and inshallah the shafaat of the Ahlul Bayt in this world and the next. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. When Fatima came to Karbala, Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. When Fatima came to Karbala, Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. Go back, O mother, they've killed my brother. Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. When Fatima came to Karbala, Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. When Fatima came to Karbala, Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. Go back, O mother, they've killed my brother. Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. When the night fell on that desert camping, a lonely voice was heard in moaning. Then she looked and saw someone approaching, one who would join her in her grieving. She had come to see her progeny and what had become of their destiny. But she could not let her to go closer. She did not want her to really see. I do not want you to go further. You will only see pain and horror. I do not want you to go further. You will only see pain and horror. Body with no head, 72 dead. Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. When Fatima came to Karbala, Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. When Fatima came to Karbala, Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. Go back, O mother, they killed my brother. Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. Before you were born, my loving daughter, I was shown this by your grandfather. He told me what was to be for my son, and how it would be a tragedy. My brother told me of this day as well. I knew what was to become of me. But even then I could not stand witness when I saw Shimmer walking to him. My mother, you cannot bear to see what they did to his broken body. My mother, you cannot bear to see what they did to his broken body. Arrow in his heart, liver ripped apart. Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. When Fatima came to Karbala, Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. When Fatima came, said, do not look, Ya Zahra. Go back, O mother, they killed my brother. Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. O mother, when he stood and addressed the people who had now turned on him, he cried and shed the bitterest of tears. I never saw such a thing from him. My brother, you who define what is brave, how can I stand to see you crying? I cry not for what shall happen to us, but that the cause of their doom is me. Even in this final moment, he could only think of their torment. Even in this final moment, he could only think of their torment. How could they kill him? He came to help them. Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. When Fatima came to Karbala, Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. When Fatima came to Karbala, Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. Go back, O mother, they've killed my brother. Zainab said, do not look, Ya Zahra. Hussein, 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 Hussein.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين أيها الزين العابدين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي أيها الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي أيها العسكري. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا إمامنا يا صاحب العصر والزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك، واجعل جميعنا من أعوانك وشيعتك ومحبيك جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات.